the FT5 versus the D75. Stick around and we'll get right to it. So I've had about maybe 3.5 weeks with the new Kenwood D75 HT in my hands. And I wanted to take a look at that radio today versus the FT5 that I've owned basically since that radio came out. And I had the FT3 before that one. Now, first things first, let's address the elephant in the room, and that's the price of this particular HT. It is expensive. There's no two ways around it. In fact, it's the most expensive HT on the market. The FT5 right now comes in at around $429. I believe when that one was first introduced, it was right around $499 or $500. The ICOM ID52 came in at about $650, and the Kenwood, again being the most expensive, at $750. Is that worth it? Well, that's going to be a personal opinion. I've run into several guys that are already carrying this radio. They've purchased it and they are enjoying using that particular radio. I've also ran into a couple of you when I was at Hamcation that said, absolutely not. There's no way they're paying that much for an HT. It's just absurd for that price. And again, it's personal preference. I have found several features on the D75 that make it worth it to me and the way I will be using it going forward. But that's something you're going to have to decide, is that price point too much for you or not? The next elephant in the room that I want to discuss is battery life between these two radios. Now, on the FT5, I do have that extended battery that's an aftermarket battery. I believe that's a full 5 amp hour, so I'm not going to be talking about this particular battery, but using the stock batteries that came with the FT5. And in my experience, I've done no scientific testing yet. I'm going to be doing that when I get back home. But right now, we've been traveling for 3 weeks, and I just haven't had the ability to take the time and do a real side-by-side comparison test. I can tell you, in my experience, the D75 doesn't seem to last as long as the FT5. I've talked to a couple of other owners of the D75, and they say it's roughly equivalent to the D74 battery life, and most everyone knows that that was always an issue. Now, with that said, I talked to the Kenwood guys while I was at Hamcation, and that was one of the remarks I made was the battery life was not as good as I expected. I was told if you cycle that battery, meaning you fully drain it and then fully recharge that battery 7 times, it would break in the battery and give you better battery life. Now, I have cycled one of the batteries the 7 times. I'm actually working on the second battery. I actually picked up 2 additional batteries for the D75 while at Hamcation. So when I get an opportunity, I'm going to do a more scientific test, but right now I can say that it just doesn't seem to last as long as the FT5. So for battery life, I'm going to give the FT5 the win. So why am I enjoying this radio so much more than the FT5? Primarily for me, it's accessing or being able to access the TNC either through USB or through Bluetooth. And I have been using this radio pretty extensively with Linux and accessing those features over Bluetooth. This gives me the ability to grab the APRS data and feed it into an application like Yak. It also gives me the ability to Bluetooth to the radio and send messages from a computer, APRS messages from a computer, using the TNC on the radio and not having any additional hardware to have to mess with. Literally a laptop and the HT, and I'm good to go. I'll do a video here coming up soon on how to access that Bluetooth TNC using a Linux system if any of you guys are interested in it. In addition to using it for APRS, I've also been using that radio with the laptop to access packet gateways for WinLink. So if I'm close enough to a gateway that I can use just 5 watts on the HT, I can grab the laptop, the radio, and make a quick WinLink connection. Now, the next point I want to address is digital. Both of these radios are digital, and again, this is going to kind of come down to personal preference. We've got System Fusion with the FT5, and we've got D-Star with the D75. Personally, I prefer System Fusion over D-Star, and the only reason that is the case is because System Fusion is the most popular thing in my home area. We don't have a D-Star repeater that I can even hit with the HT. I think the closest D-Star repeater for us is about 30, maybe 35 miles away, so it doesn't do me a lot of good with an HT. There's several repeaters, however, in my area that I can hit with System Fusion using the FT5. So again, this one's going to come down to personal preference in which one is more prevalent in your area. If you live in an area with both, well, then it's a coin toss. Another difference between these two radios is the weatherproofing on each of them. The FT5 slightly edges out the D75. Its IP rating is IPX7. So this one, I've seen it submerged and survive. I haven't submerged mine, but I have gotten it pretty wet in some rain showers. The other one, let's see, this is IP54/55, so not quite as good on the weatherproofing, though I don't think you'll have any problems with day-to-day activities or even being caught out in a rain shower. I just wouldn't submerge that D75. Another huge advantage for the D75 is its wide receive capability. Now, yes, the FT5 has a pretty wide receive. However, the vast majority of it, once you get out of the 2-meter 440 band, is only in AM. The Kenwood gives us CW, lower sideband, and upper sideband when we're listening to the HF frequencies. So that is definitely a win for the D75 if that's something that you would be interested in using the radio for. The D75 is also a tri-band radio, so in addition to 2-meter and 440, this also gives us 220. Again, that's not something that's really widely used in my area, but I've talked to other operators that have a lot of 220 activity in their area. I do think it's cool that it's included. I need to do a little bit of research and see if there's a repeater in my area that I can get into with the HT and at least give 220 a try. So is it worth the hefty price tag? For me, the answer is absolutely yes, mainly because of that built-in TNC that I can access either with Bluetooth or USB. I don't like the battery life. I did go ahead and purchase 2 additional batteries while we were at Hamcation. However, those 2 batteries cost $110 each. So in addition to the price tag of the HT, you at least need to calculate in 1 additional battery, if not 2. Now, I do own a couple of additional batteries for the FT5, so that's really not too much of an extra. The only other thing that I can really complain about with the D75, and this was the same with the FT5, is they don't include that desktop charger in the box. I think for the price tag of these flagship radios, we should be getting a desktop charger in there. But I don't think that's going to change anytime soon, and it's just going to cost you an extra $50 after you've bought that flagship HT. So would I buy it again? Well, that's hard to say right now. Just with the short usage I've had, I'm going to say absolutely I would buy it again. I'm going to take this and run it, though, over the next 6, 8, 10 months as my daily driver and see if I feel the same way about it at the end of that period. I've carried the crap out of the FT5, and it has been a great radio. I really enjoy a lot of the features with the FT5, and there's not a whole lot more that the D75 does. There are a few things, but they're pretty comparable radios, excluding that TNC being accessible. If that's something you want, well, you've got to go with a Kenwood D75 or look for a D74, D72 on the used market. But I'll do a follow-up video after I've had a little bit more time to play with this and let you guys know what I think in another 6 months or so. I appreciate you tuning in today. If you found today's information helpful, be sure to leave us a thumbs up before you head off. We will see you guys on the next one. Until then, 7-3.